Probably in about the late 1930s or mid 1930s, I guess it was. The Rogans donated the land for the field. The problem was the old field was a graveyard, being mostly, I guess, a paupers type graveyard and maybe some Civil War soldiers and whatnot. So some of the bodies didn't get removed because there was no family to claim them, so most of them were exhumed and moved out to the city cemetery where they exist today.
Well, you can't help but kind of have that feeling of it, especially on the graveyard and when on Halloween or Friday the 13th. You know, just the setting of it, knowing that there's actually remains of San Saba citizens under us. You know, we're the only ones that can say that we built our football field on a legitimate graveyard. My name's Jake Lackey. I'm a resident of San Saba. I guess you'd consider me the local historian. I don't know how accurate that is. I just have a lot of useless information, some fun facts. According to history, just through the newspaper articles, you know, originally Rogan Field was part of the Methodist Church, which is the church behind us right here. It was designated, this section as a cemetery for the early settlers in the town. It was originally owned by Dr. Rogan, who was a founding father of San Saba. He owned this land originally. The Rogan family owned it, and they donated it to the Methodist Church to use it as a cemetery with the agreement that they would keep it up and maintain it. And as most common rural small churches, they didn't have very much funding. From what I read, it was overgrown. They were throwing trash here. It was a real eyesore for the community, and the family had made it known that, you know, they wanted this to be upkept. That was part of the agreement originally, and it hadn't been properly maintained. So the family decided to deed it over to the school with the agreement that it would be used for an athletic facility. And that was, you know, basically the transition from it being a city cemetery to a football field.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Schulze. I'm a coach at San Saba. I've been very fortunate. We've had, you know, like some of our kids today, I coach their daddies, and some of them, and a few of them, I coach their grandparents. So I've been around long enough to see that, and it's been very rewarding. Well, I kind of knew about it because I played football at Mason. I actually played my last football game when I was a senior in high school in 1967 on Rogan Field. So I kind of knew about it a little bit, so it wasn't that big a surprise to me, but it has been to a lot of other people. I got my information mainly from a guy named James Harkey, who played football back in those days. And James is deceased now, but I still remember the stories that he told me. And you know, he said that he remembers the bulldozers coming in to clear the land, and a few of the bodies or whatever remains didn't get claimed, so they just bulldozed the tombstones in and left them there. There weren't very many.
Yeah, leading up to it, letters to the editors going into 1935, there was lots of controversy to it. Was a moral obligation to the bodies that had been here? Mr. Rogan's family actually wrote a very long letter ending the whole entire conversation. You know, saying we had an opportunity to have this as a cemetery. The community didn't keep it upkept. We asked for families to help clean it up, and it wasn't maintained the way it was supposed to. So that's one way they justified it, being able to use it as a football field. Because at that time, we didn't have a football field. We were actually using the fairgrounds a little bit north of town, and not very many towns had a football field. So it was kind of Mr. Rogan actually wanted this piece of property to be used for the school. When they initially started removing bodies, I think it was in June of 1935, they asked, there was 18 to 35 recognizable headstones. And they asked, you know, the community, you know, could you relocate your family members if possible? And what I understand, just some of them were removed, so we don't have an actual number, but we know that that not all the bodies were actually removed from relocated to the new cemetery.
Well, I had off season, I think it was about 2011. I walked in the west gate, Our weight room was down there at the time. We've since moved it up here. But I walked in the west gate and I looked in under the hedge there by the fence and I saw a piece of bone laying there, and about like that. And I went over there and picked it up and I looked at it and I said, this is human. There's no doubt about that. And it was very old. It wasn't anything fresh. So I gave it to my head coach at the time, and I don't know what he did with it, but there was no doubt in my mind where it came from and what it was, because a ball like that, a hip joint ball, there's not any other bone that looks like that on any other animal I can think of. I thought, well, it was kind of an oddity. I thought, man, what a deal, you know? I mean, but things happen. I mean, things get pushed to the top every now and then. Like I said, I knew that there was some remains there, but I didn't expect to find something on top. I figured it was long buried and a lot deeper than that.
Last year we had an official fall down. He was okay. I'd like to point that out, but he fell and rolled, and we all got a good little kick out of it, saying, you know, Graveyard was mad for that call. So it's all in good fun. So there's lots of rumors. I've heard they were building a couple of facilities on this other side of the field, and they dug up and they hit a headstone. I'm not sure how true that is or not. You know, that's coming from grandpa's way back in the day. So it might be true, it's not, but we like to use that lure. It makes for a great story either way.
Back in the 90s when Coach McCoy, Brad McCoy, Colt McCoy's dad was here, he kind of made a big deal out of it. Prior to that, we hadn't said much about it, and he used it kind of as, you know, the 12th man or whatever, and it worked for him. And, you know, some people were kind of against that. They put a sign up, "Welcome to the Graveyard," and some folks were against that. It kind of died out. We've brought it back in the last few years, and some of those folks that were against it aren't around anymore, and so things have changed. It's more acceptable now to the people that live here.
You know, nobody can say, well, we can say we're the only armadillos in the world, and we're the only ones that play on the Graveyard. So that's very, very unique to San Saba, and hope many generations take pride in that 100 years from now.